Welcome to Gentle Jabs. Here on this show, we discuss different current events happening around the United States and around the world. It's where Democrats and Republicans come together and discuss current issues. We also have independent Bill Driscoll with us, and we have the pleasure of having the presidents, Bill Clinton and Trump as well. We're going to be discussing 5 topics: gas prices, crime in America, Ukraine, inflation, and the midterms. John, I believe that you wanted to start us off with talking about gas prices currently. Why don't you kick us off?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I haven't had to buy any gas for a while because I bought some about 2 weeks. But I can tell you the next time I go to the pump, it's going to be quite interesting. I don't think Joe Biden has got any idea of what he's doing. This week, he put a ban on Russian oil. I mean, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline the first day he was in office, and that was going to provide 850,000 barrels a day. So I'm pretty concerned that Joe is completely clueless. Now, Bill Clinton, when you were president, we didn't have these kind of problems. Why has Joe got it so wrong?
Well, first of all, he doesn't have it wrong. We shut down that pipeline because it needed to be shut down because we wanted to go to alternative fuels and wind power and other things that were cleaner, that were better for the environment. And so that's the reason why. And I think it's a good decision. We don't want to go back to the 1950s with oil. We want to get away from oil.
Yeah, now what happened to those windmills in Texas last winter? It got really cold. They all shut down. I mean, they had the worst storm in Austin in quite a while. Now, this lady who's our Secretary of Energy, she thinks this is all a big joke. Jennifer Granholm. What do you think of her, President Clinton?
Well, she's not bad looking for her age, I can tell you that.
But she's clueless upstairs. Now, Mitch, let's get...
Oh, yeah, of course.
Let's get clip 1 queued up when you've got a chance, and let me know when you're ready to go. Okay, let's take a look at it.
The pain getting very real at the pump. AAA says the average price for a gallon of gas has topped $4, nearing an all-time record. The record set in 2008 is $4.11, though adjusting for inflation, that would be more than $5 today. Gas prices are up 13% since Russia invaded Ukraine nearly 2 weeks ago. Those prices could rise even higher. In fact, one Los Angeles gas station is selling regular unleaded for nearly $7 a gallon.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, overnight in Florida, the average price for a gallon of regular topped the $4 mark. Yeah.
And I can attest to this personally. I filled up at the gas pump today here in Utah, and I paid $4.19 a gallon. And usually I'm used to paying that when I lived in California, but not here in Utah.
And now, President Trump, I thought you had the energy situation under control. Now we've got to worry about whether Joe is going to go back to Iran for oil. There's talk that he wants to go to Venezuela. I mean, give me a break. Open up the Keystone Pipeline, open up the domestic leases, and let's get this thing going. We've got to be energy independent, not only from an economic, but also a national security standpoint. What is your view, sir?
Well, I think if we're not careful, we're going to go back to bicycles. That's what we're going to have for transportation. This is ridiculous what's going on. This would have never happened if I was still president. Actually, I am president. If I was still president, if they hadn't stole the election from me, I would have had this taken care of. Everybody knows it.
I think it's true. I mean, we had this under control. I never had to worry about gas. Now I'm worried about whether it's going to be gas lines. You know.
By the way, John.
Yeah.
These sanctions that are going on with Putin and Russia, they're not going to do anything. Only thing they're going to do is hurt the middle class and the lower class people in this country.
Well, I think Joe is completely clueless. He's got an energy secretary who doesn't look like she could run bingo at a Wednesday night assisted living facility. Now, President.
Now, hold on a second, John. You're blasting everybody, John. You can't find one nice thing to say about any of these people.
Well, I can't find anything nice to say about Granholm when she's laughing when the clip we played in our last show. People are saying they have to go week to week deciding whether to buy groceries or gasoline so they can earn some kind of a living. So I think she's completely lightweight. And Joe, I mean, why did he shut down the pipeline day one? Was it Barry Obama that got in his ear? Was it Lurch Kerry? Who
Yeah.
got to Joe to tell him to shut down the pipeline day one?
Well, unlike my administration, I think some people to the left kind of guided Joe, in my opinion. I was more towards the center. And it's tough, but I think overall, if you look at what Biden's doing, he's not doing near as bad as you think he is.
So
I mean,
inflation,
really, the president has nothing to do with the gas prices.
well, inflation's at a 40. What do you mean presidents have nothing to do with gas prices? You shut down a pipeline, you curtail the supply, you don't allow people to drill on leases that they have, you don't allow exploration in Alaska.
But we didn't have pipelines when I was in there. We didn't have Keystone Pipeline when I was in there. We were fine.
The demand wasn't as high as it is now. The demand is quite high. So I think that this administration, and we're going to talk about the midterms later in the show, but this administration is in for a rude awakening in November. I think it's going to be quite amazing. Now, let's move on to crime in America. Mitch, we've got a clip 3 when you get a chance to cue it up. I mean, the left has absolutely pushed this to fund the police thing. Donald Trump had this under control when he was president. Policemen respected him. He respected the police. The people respect the police. You start calling for defund the police and allow people to murder cops in the street. These were 2 young officers that were killed in New York City in an ambush. So the crime in America is not good. And the liberal DAs are not prosecuting crimes, these street crimes. We've got a clip I want to show you about some of these smash and grabs. Let's go to it.
Many stores are increasing security on Black Friday because of a wave of smash and grab robberies in California and nationwide. One of the most recent incidents at a Nordstrom in Los Angeles, where a security guard was attacked. Thousands of dollars worth of merchandise stolen in just minutes. Here's ABC's Zareen Shah.
Tonight, the urgent manhunt for dozens of robbers targeting department stores and luxury brands in highly coordinated and often violent smash and grabs. Just hours before Thanksgiving Day, police say thieves used bear spray to assault a security guard at a Los Angeles Nordstrom, 5 of them brazenly making off with $25,000 worth of designer purses. That same night, thieves stealing $20,000 worth of merchandise at an Apple store north of San Francisco. And this past weekend, roughly 80 people running back to their cars after a flash mob style heist at an Oakland area Nordstrom, snatching items. One employee was pepper sprayed, another attacked.
It's unlikely that 80 people are just going to show up and arbitrarily just decide to do this at once. It's the gang network that we see engaged in this type of activity.
Burglars also over the weekend taking a sledgehammer to a Beverly Hills Louis Vuitton and Saks Fifth Avenue store, but unable to make it inside before police cars approached. Law enforcement across the country now concerned about similar crimes. Police near Chicago say 14 thieves stormed a Louis Vuitton in broad daylight as shoppers scatter, masked looters emptying shelves, making off with $120,000 worth of merchandise in mere seconds.
Several people have been arrested in these robberies here in California. The police chief in LA saying you're going to see a lot more police officers outside of malls this holiday season. Lindsay.
Zoreen, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George.
I think that's a real problem. Now, President Trump, I thought you did a great job. Crime was down. But these liberal cities that have allowed these DAs, and they're trying to recall the DA in Los Angeles County. It's just outrageous. And I don't think that that's going to play very well in the midterms either. What's your thoughts, sir?
Well, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to work out too good. The biggest crime's what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now. Russia's not the big bully that people think that's going on. There's a lot of horrible things that are going along. But you know what? The mainstream media is not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you. But I'm here to tell you that you're right, John. Crime is everywhere worldwide. It's getting worse. It's a huge problem.
I remember when you were in the White House and they painted in the streets of DC, defund the police, and then they set fire to St. John's Church, where Abraham Lincoln had prayed during the Civil War, and they set fire to that. No one ever got prosecuted. They all
That's a disgrace.
Unbelievable. Now,
Such a
I remember
disgrace.
during the riots in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, our vice president was encouraging people to send money into the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And one of the guys that she got bailed out committed a road rage murder. So this is a real problem for Democrats. And I don't think Bill Clinton can stand behind this. I mean, I think it's going to cost them. What do you think, Bill?
Well, you know, the thing is that people make mistakes, and there are crimes that happen. And I mean, I've made mistakes, and God knows I've paid a price. But you know, I'm not condoning that of a crime, that it's okay. I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that are upset, and rightly so. There needs to be change in this country. And I think that, you know, in time, things are going to get better. We're going to get more notice on things. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I think it's a real problem. Now let's move on to Ukraine. That's still in the news. I mean, I don't hear anything good going on there. It's a little unclear to me exactly what the administration's policy and strategy is. I mean, I'm hearing that they wanted to send fighters into Ukraine or have Poland send fighters. So I think it's a little unclear. You've got to be very careful with what you're doing there. Now, what is this now? John Bolton. Now that's a real piece of work. President Trump, do you remember John Bolton? I think he kind of was a real thorn in your side, and he turned out to be kind of a real lowlife. What is your thought?
He's a real beauty. You know, we had some people recommend him to come in, and he did a horrible job. I don't have too much to say about John Bolton. He's not one of my favorite people. That I can tell you.
Okay, well, we have a clip on Ukraine, clip 2. Mitch, when you get that queued up, let us know. Let's take a look at that.
There's a look now, a new look at some of the destruction that is happening in Kiev. Aerial footage showing the city, parts of it just destroyed from some of the shelling. And many residents are having, obviously, to leave town. Look at these apartment buildings. It's unbelievable. And so this morning we're told that frequent shelling has been heard, although more distant in recent days. The loud thudding that can be heard, the air raid sirens that go off almost on a minute-by-minute basis. Vladimir Putin is trying to control the talking points, banning media outlets from using the term war when talking about the ongoing attacks. At least 2 independent Russian news outlets that refuse to share his talking points have been forced off the air this morning. And in an effort to intimidate journalists, the Russian parliament has just passed a new rule that basically puts a 15-year prison sentence on anyone who reports, quote, fake news, at least the way they view it. Guys.
Those pictures.
Unbelievable, right?
And it looks very residential, Ron.
It really does.
I don't know. I know they were talking about going after military targets. Those didn't look military to me.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And we've seen it in so many cities.
All right,
you,
Ron,
Ron.
thank you. Yeah, those images are just heartbreaking. So we continue to bring you the latest on the war in Ukraine as it develops. You can also follow the latest on Live Now from Fox. You just scan that QR code that you see there on your screen, and it will take you right to Live Now on Fox.
Beautiful. So that's a good clip. I think the situation in Ukraine, we've got to keep our eye on it and make sure we do the right thing. We want to support those people as best we can. But I think the administration should have gone in there and let Putin know early on that they would not allow Ukraine to become a member of NATO in exchange for a peaceful coexistence. Now, President Trump, you know, Joe Biden's got himself into all kinds of problems with his son Hunter and Burisma.
He's a real beauty.
I mean, how does that work out? I don't quite get how he got away with that. When he was on tape, we can play it if you want, where he says, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If you don't fire that prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion. It's on tape. How did he get away with that?
Well, you tell me. Can you imagine if Hunter was my son? Can you imagine if Don Jr. had done what he had done? We would have never heard the end of it. Never heard the end of it. But you know, it's horrible. It's a terrible thing that's going on over there. And by the way, I had some sources tell me that, you know, the secretaries at Doolin knew about these biolabs going on in Ukraine, and yet we're acting all innocent. What's going on? I didn't know anything about biolabs being in Ukraine, and the Russians that get to that. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on here we don't understand.
Well, the media covers for these guys. I mean, they're not covering anything. They're not covering Hunter. They're not covering Joe's brother. I mean,
No,
it's
they're not going to.
they get a free pass.
They're not
You know,
going to. By the way, part of the impeachment process was about me in Ukraine. You remember that, John?
Oh, why don't we release and call for the release of the transcripts between Joe and Zelensky? I would love to hear those transcripts. Why did they make such a big deal? Is there not another Vladimir Vindman in the deep state that would come forward for the greatness of this country and expose Joe for his incompetence and corruption? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But what I'd like to do is have the release of all those people on January 6th that have been detained for well over a year without due process. It's unbelievable to me.
It's unbelievable. So let's move on to inflation. Now, Mitch, we do have a clip 4 when you get a chance there. Inflation is going to bite everyone in the behind. I mean, every time you go to the store now, you're going to have to wonder what's going on here. It used to cost 1 year ago a commercial truck with a 300-gallon tank, $899 to fill up. Now, today, it's $1,425. You don't think they're going to pass those costs along to the consumer? So this is a real problem coming into the midterms. And I just think it's crazy. Let's listen to Stuart Varney and what he has to say.
This is what everyone's talking about, the gas price spike. If you were out and about this weekend, you couldn't help but notice. The national average for regular is now $4.06, and that's only 5 cents below the all-time high that we hit in 2008. In California, prices are just off the charts. Worse, from an economic standpoint, the price of diesel skyrocketing too. $4.61 is the average now, as of this morning. Farmers, truckers, delivery, construction, they all use diesel. Just imagine a trucker with a 300-gallon tank. She's paying over $1,400 for a fill-up. A month ago, it was $1,100. Inflation is not limited to energy. The price of wheat has risen an astonishing 50% since February the 24th, when the war began. You get a shock at the gas station, you get a shock at the grocery store. That's inflation. What's Biden doing about it? Not much. He talks about spending more money to cut costs. Cue the eye roll. What's the Fed doing about it? Jay Powell will raise interest rates a quarter point this month. That won't do much short term, will it? In short, we are in an inflation spiral, and it's not going away. When we had similar spikes in the past, they were followed by a recession. Bad for workers, bad for the economy, and very bad for the Democrats in November.
That's the point that plays into it now, the inflation. Bill Clinton, what advice would you give Joe about inflation?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do. We can stop driving our cars as much. We could slow that down. You know, take transportation, public transportation. We could try that for a while. I don't think the situation is going to last a long time. I know it hurts the American people and it hurts me. Even though I don't pay for gas, I'm a politician, I get it for free and my insurance. So it doesn't impact us politicians as it does the average American person. But my heart goes out to everybody, and I hope that everybody understands that if we tighten our belts, we're doing this for Ukraine. We're doing this for our country to help their country. That's how I see it.
So Jimmy Carter used to tell everyone to, put on a sweater and everything would be fine. I don't think, are you going to be in a position where you think that this is transitory? Is that a great word that the Democrats love to use? President Trump, what's your thought on this inflation?
It's a nightmare, a complete nightmare. And it's not going to go away quickly, not very quickly. It's going to take a lot of patience. I don't know if the country can wait a couple of more years for me to come back. Something's got to happen soon. We can't go on at this rate for another 3 years. It's 2 years, actually. Something needs to be done very, very quickly, and I'm the man to do it. I'll get it under control. If I have to, I can call the military, martial law, put me back in, let me straighten this mess out. I'll call Vlad. We'll have a vodka together, even though I don't drink, and we'll work it out.
Well, that sounds like a plan. Now, our never Trumper and occasionally independent voter, Bill, he wants to do a little outreach, and I think he has a comment as well.
Well, I can do my outreach first. We are looking for a Democrat to participate in our show. And as this gets out to the public and we have subscribers to our program, if anybody would like to take on the role of the Democrat and engage in debate with John Stahl and be part of the program, hopefully you have some knowledge and can do well in a debate environment. If you would like us to consider you, you can send an email to debatesandiego@gmail.com. So that's DEBATESANDIEGO, debatesandiego@gmail.com, and give us your contact information and we'll get in touch with you and we might invite you to be on our show. Regarding inflation, if I'm not mistaken, the oil companies are making record profits. And I have a feeling that that they can justify the prices because we're certainly in a culture where we're expecting and seeing prices go up. And I think there are some companies that take advantage of that sentiment and they're not suffering at all. And they raise their prices. Now, maybe somebody can fact check that, but I'm pretty sure that the oil companies and others are making record profits right now, and they're not suffering with.
That's a fact check for the next show, Mitch. So let's check on that record profits. I mean,
You know what, John, if I could say something to Bill, this isn't just about gas and the oil companies. What's happening is with the American people, they're not going to be able to go out to eat dinner. They're not going to be able to, because they don't have the extra income to do that, because they have to buy higher gas prices. So it's going to domino. It's going to affect everything in the country. And
Well,
so it's
take
horrible.
into account what I just said, Mr. President. If it's true that they're making record profits, then we owe some of that inflation to their greed. So let's check that out. Let's do a fact check and can come back on that next week.
okay, great. Now that's really good. Now let's move into the midterms. I think all this inflation, gas prices, it's all going to come back. And I think the midterms are going to be very interesting. What are we now? March 8th? We're less than 8 months away from these midterms. I think that I have one objective for these midterms, and that's to take the gavel away from Nancy Pelosi. I mean, that would be my sole objective. This woman is a lunatic. I think she's clueless. She hasn't done anything to improve the lives of Americans. She runs around and violates all the policies they put in place on masking and visiting salons, taking pictures of herself eating ice cream and bragging about all the different flavors of ice cream she got in during the pandemic. I mean, it's just a joke. So I think this is all going to come back to bite Democrats big time in November. And I just want to get your opinion, President Trump. How are you feeling about the midterms? What are you seeing? How do you think this inflation and gas prices will play into that?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good, but we've got some people at our own party, like the Lindsey Grahams. He'd be a great Democrat for Bill. He'd be a great one. You know, we're going to do well. I think it's going to be big. It's going to be very, very big. And people across the country are seeing what's going on in all different phases around the world and our country, what's going on. They don't like it. And quite frankly, people can't take a whole lot more of this. Something's got to give. And I think what we need to do is make sure we get the right people in. There are quite a few Republicans I don't care for, as you know. They tried to do me in. But we need to win back the House. We need to win back the House and then the Senate. And we'll take care of a lot of things, especially Nancy. We'll take care of her.
Yeah, now President Clinton, have you got any thoughts on these midterms? Are you going to help any particular candidates? Are you going to be there with Stacey Abrams? I mean, what is your plan to help the Democrat Party? I know you're a loyal guy. What are you going to do?
Well, you know, anybody that would like my services, I'm more than willing to help. Stacey's a great person. I love her. I think she's doing great in Georgia, and I think she'll be a fine representative. And we've got so many young, talented people in the Democratic Party that you're going to see. And I think your idea of a red tide is just not going to happen.
Well, I think it'll be real interesting to see. I'm willing to bet on a 50 seat change, which will take the
No,
capital
no,
away from-
not 50. No.
Well, it happened before. It can happen again. I think you guys are underestimating how disappointed people are going to be with Biden and inflation going into these midterms. I mean, it's really hitting people hard in the pocketbook. When you have to fill up your tank of gas and it's costing you twice what it used to, and you haven't gotten a raise or
Yeah.
something, or you're working on your job, it comes from somewhere else. So the working class in this country and who the Democrats have always said that they love and adore and want to take care of, it's going to come back to bite the Democrats big time.
By the way, did you see Stephen Colbert? You know, the comment that he made about, oh, we need to do this for Ukraine. We need to tough it out. This guy's making over $16 million a year. Does it really affect him if he pays $15, $20, $25 a gallon?
Absolutely.
The money he's making, it's crazy.
It's the guys who have to drive around all over the countryside to service heaters and air conditioners and deliver goods. I mean, I'm sure that Amazon and these guys are going to have to start raising prices. So it's going to hit every component of our
Every
society.
sector, every sector.
It's unbelievable. So we're going to about ready to close the show. Any final comments from any of our panelists here tonight? We want this country to be everything it can be. This is the shining city on the hill. We've got a little sidetracked here, but I think that if we take the House back, we're going to do a great job, and President Trump's going to be president again in 2024. I'll be interested to see when he makes that announcement and who the leading candidates are for vice president. So President Trump.
I'm ready to play ball. I'm ready to play ball.
Now, our never Trumper Bill, have you got any comments or anything that you observed?
Oh, well, I think I'm going to add a little bit on to the inflation discussion. There are still certain factors that are causing that. I tuned in CNBC, the financial station, and they're not interested in politics. All they care about is their return on investment. They went down a whole list of things like the chip shortage and the reluctance of some people to go back to work. And there were several factors. Some of them were complicated, certain international factors. You tune in Fox News and it's all Biden's fault. There's no other factors that cause it. So I do think that is, I think that's more than partisan spin. I think that's more than an exaggeration. I think that's a fabrication. And
any of these issues are a big deal when President Trump was president? We didn't have chip shortages. We didn't have supply shortages. We didn't have energy shortages. I mean, this is all because the Democrats, day one, signed away everything that he did and just reversed it for no good reason, just to spite President Trump. And I want President Trump to have a chance to respond to Bill.
Absolutely. You know, look at our border. What a complete mess. An unbelievable mess what they've done to that. I mean, around the world, you look at things, it's everything's chaotic. But yet I was such a problem. I look pretty good now, don't I, Bill? You got to admit, I look pretty good.
Absolutely.
We don't have time for me to go through all my the reasons for my objections to you. There's really quite a long list.
Okay, so President Clinton, if you have any closing comments, we'll take those from you.
Well, you know, I don't fault him if he was with Stormy Daniels or not. I don't care. I mean, I thought, you know, she's a pretty nice looking woman. But other than that, Bill, I agree with you. You know, I don't even watch Fox News because of that. You know, they're not, what is their motto they come up with? They're balanced or whatever. They say fair and balanced. There's nothing fair or balanced about Fox News. Nothing fair and balanced.
I can, if you know any of the shows, you know that they do have people on that are Democrats. Is there any Republican that shows up on MSNBC or CNN that you know of?
I've seen a few people on there. I know CNN is on the rebound. You know, they've made some administrative changes.
Yeah, they had all kinds of problems with having to get let go of Chris Cuomo and the Zucker. I mean, that's a basket case over there. Now,
Yeah.
Mitch, do you have any closing comments for tonight's show? You've been listening very intelligently and patiently?
Yes, I wanted to share very quickly with our audience what dates are coming up. We live in such an incredible country that we actually have the opportunity to vote for our leadership. And I just wanted to show our audience when the 2022 midterm elections are and where they're at. Starting off in Texas has already begun in March. I'm not going to go through the entire list just due to time, but I'm going to go through June just to give a view that Texas has already started, and into April, the CA22 special primary will begin. In May, Indiana and Ohio will begin. And on Tuesday, May 10th, Nebraska and West Virginia. Also in May, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, Pennsylvania. And also in May, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, and Texas. And I just wanted to share that for our listeners so that you go out and vote. We live in such an incredible country where we actually have the opportunity to vote. And there's so many people that don't take advantage of that opportunity. They feel like it's too time consuming. Get out and vote for your leadership. Do your research, look into the candidates, and make a difference in your community by actually doing your research, finding the people that support what you believe in, and go out and vote. Because you have the control to do so, and you can make a difference in where you live.
I would just like to say, I'd like to see all the polls close at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain time, close the polls at 8 o'clock, not let the counting go on all night long.
Election day, Mr. President, election day. Okay, Mitch, why don't you close us out for the show this week? I really appreciate everyone's participation tonight. I thought it was a good, lively debate. I look forward to our next set of discussions.
Thank you all for joining us for General Jab this week. God bless America, and we'll see you again on the next show.